The stadium lights in Buenos Aires looked like a second sky, brighter than the stars and far less forgiving. From the 32nd floor of a glass tower overlooking the city, millions of dollars moved with a single signature, sponsorship deals changed overnight, and entire careers rose or collapsed before breakfast. And somewhere inside that tower, a woman was trying very hard not to spill coffee on a billionaire's white marble floor. Unfortunately, she failed. The dark liquid spread like a crime scene across the polished surface. Zaria Vale froze. The security guard stared. The receptionist winced. And the billionaire she had accidentally embarrassed didn't even look up from the document he was reading. He simply slid a box of tissues across the table. No anger or irritation. Nothing. Which somehow felt worse. Zaria had spent 3 months unemployed in London before accepting a temporary logistics contract in Argentina. Her student loans were waiting like hungry wolves. Her landlord had perfected the art of sounding sympathetic while threatening eviction. She desperately needed this job. Instead, she had just baptized the office floor with coffee. Wonderful, she muttered under her breath. A strong start. A faint smile touched the billionaire's mouth. That was her first encounter with Caelan Voss, owner of Voss Global Sports, investor, media giant, sponsor of half the World Cup infrastructure, and apparently a man incapable of expressing emotion beyond a 3-millimeter movement of facial muscles. The stories surrounding him were legendary. Some called him ruthless. Others called him brilliant. Most called him impossible. By every account, he was the kind of man who could negotiate a billion-dollar contract before lunch and fire someone before dessert. So when Zaria received an email 3 days later informing her that she had been selected to coordinate a special World Cup executive project directly under him, she assumed it was a mistake. Then she saw the salary. Then she stopped asking questions. The assignment sounded simple. Travel with the executive team. Coordinate schedules. Manage sponsorship appearances. Handle emergencies. Ensure everything ran smoothly during the World Cup. Simple. That illusion lasted approximately 14 hours. The first disaster arrived in Madrid. A sponsor's private jet developed technical issues. A luxury hotel double-booked 300 guests. A television crew lost equipment worth more than Zaria's lifetime earnings. Meanwhile, Caelan remained calm. While everyone else panicked, he moved through chaos like a man taking a leisurely walk through rain. The more she observed him, the more confused she became. He wasn't cruel, neither arrogant. He wasn't even particularly social. Instead, he seemed distant, as though part of him permanently lived somewhere nobody else could reach. People feared him because he expected excellence, not because he enjoyed hurting anyone. That realization annoyed her. It was easier to dislike billionaires when they behaved like villains. Caelan stubbornly refused to cooperate. Weeks passed. Cities blurred together. Madrid, Paris, Berlin, Doha, Buenos Aires. The World Cup became a moving universe of private flights, impossible schedules, screaming crowds, television cameras, luxury hotels, and constant pressure. And somewhere along the way, Zaria stopped seeing her boss as merely her boss. Which was dangerous. Very dangerous. Because attraction had terrible timing. Especially when directed toward someone who signed your paychecks, she noticed ridiculous things. The way he loosened his tie after difficult negotiations. The way he read contracts twice before making decisions. The fact that he secretly loved terrible airport sandwiches despite having access to private chefs. One evening in Barcelona, she discovered him eating chips from a vending machine. A billionaire eating vending machine chips. The universe almost collapsed from irony. "You know," she said, unable to stop herself, "I expected caviar." He looked at the packet, then at her. This was cheaper. She laughed. To her surprise, he laughed too. The sound startled both of them. Something changed after that. Conversations became easier. Silences became comfortable. Long flights became shorter. The distance between them shrank one accidental moment at a time, which was exactly why Zaria should have remembered one important truth. People rarely become billionaires without secrets. The first clue appeared in Munich. She wasn't looking for trouble. Trouble found her. A document arrived at her email by mistake. At least she assumed it was a mistake. The subject line contained Caelan's name. The contents made her stomach tighten. Confidential investigations. Private surveillance reports. Financial transfers. And one sentence highlighted in red. Monitor contact with subject ZV.
Zaria Vale.
Her. She reread it 3 times. Then 5. Then 10. Her pulse hammered. Why would her billionaire boss investigate her? She had never met him before that spilled coffee incident. Or so she thought. That night, she barely slept. The next morning, Caelan behaved normally. Every smile felt suspicious. Every kindness felt calculated. Every coincidence suddenly looked intentional. The question followed her everywhere. Why her? The answer refused to appear. Days later, she confronted him. Just the 2 of them inside a private conference room overlooking the city. She placed the printed report on the table. His expression changed immediately. Something closer to disappointment, as if a clock had run out. "You should explain this," she said quietly. For several seconds he said nothing. The silence stretched. Then he looked away. And that frightened her more than any argument could have. Because powerful people rarely look away unless the truth hurts. "You deserve an explanation," he said. "But not yet." Wrong answer. The kind of answer that practically begs someone to lose trust. "What exactly are you hiding?" His jaw tightened. "A promise." That was all he gave her. A promise. No details or context. Nothing. She walked away furious. For the first time since joining the project, she considered quitting. And maybe she would have, if another secret hadn't arrived first. Because someone else was watching them. Someone far more dangerous. The warning came through an anonymous message. "Stay away from Caelan Voss." The text appeared at midnight. No name or explanation. Then another. "You don't know who he really is." Then a third. "You're already part of it." By morning the messages were gone. Deleted and untraceable. The mystery deepened. Fear became curiosity and curiosity became obsession. And somewhere between stadiums and airports and sleepless nights, Zaria found herself investigating her own life. The answers she uncovered made even less sense. Records disappeared. Information contradicted itself. Certain files concerning her childhood had been sealed years earlier. People who should have known details claimed they didn't. Questions multiplied. Meanwhile, Caelan grew increasingly protective. He adjusted security schedules, changed travel routes, assigned additional staff. The more danger appeared, the closer he stayed. And somehow that only complicated her feelings. Because trust and suspicion were becoming impossible to separate. If you're enjoying the mystery unfolding beneath the World Cup lights, perhaps pause for a moment and let me know where you're listening from. And if stories filled with secrets, romance, and impossible choices are your kind of escape, a quiet subscription to Sinful Secrets helps you find the next one waiting in the shadows. By the tournament's final week, tension surrounded them like electricity. The championship match approached. Sponsors demanded perfection. Investors demanded results. Media attention intensified. Yet none of that worried Zaria. She worried about the secret. The one sitting between them every time they looked at each other. Then everything exploded. Literally. A vehicle. Their convoy had barely left a meeting when an SUV behind them erupted into flames. Screams. Sirens. Chaos. Security teams reacted instantly. Nobody died. But the message was unmistakable. Someone wanted access to Caelan and perhaps to her. The investigation accelerated and authorities became involved. Old enemies surfaced. Business rivals emerged. The media speculated endlessly. Yet the most shocking revelation arrived from somewhere entirely unexpected. Her mother. The woman who had spent years avoiding discussions about the past suddenly called. Her voice trembled. "There's something I never told you." The sentence every child eventually fears. The sentence capable of rearranging entire lives. Zaria listened. And everything changed. 30 years earlier, before wealth and headlines and billion-dollar companies, there had been an accident. A terrible one. 2 families connected by tragedy. A young boy. A young girl. One survived because of the other. One disappeared afterward. The boy was Caelan. The girl was Zaria. Neither remembered. They had been children. Too young, injured, and frightened. But Caelan's family never forgot. For decades, they searched for the girl who had unknowingly saved their son's life, vanished into another country after circumstances forced her family to relocate. Records were lost. Names changed. Time passed. Then years later, during a routine background review for employee recruitment, Caelan recognized something. A date and a location. A coincidence too impossible to ignore. He investigated carefully, secretly, and eventually discovered the truth. Zaria sat motionless after hearing the story. Her world tilted. The surveillance. The investigations. The secrecy. The protection. It all suddenly made sense. But another question remained. Why hide it? The answer came directly from Caelan. Because he feared she'd think everything between them was built on obligation. Because he feared gratitude would poison authenticity. Because he wanted her to choose him without knowing. Not because of history or because of debt or because he owed her life. Just because she wanted to. The irony hurt. Both of them had been protecting something. He protected a truth. She protected feelings. And in the process, they nearly destroyed the very thing they wanted. For the first time, the billionaire looked vulnerable like a human. A man terrified that honesty might cost him the person he loved. And there it was. The word neither had spoken. Love. Simple, complicated, terrifying, but real. The final match arrived beneath a sky heavy with anticipation. Crowds flooded the city. Flags waved. History prepared itself. Yet for Zaria, the game unfolding on the field mattered less than the conversation waiting afterward. Because love isn't usually defeated by enemies. It's defeated by timing, fear, silence, and misunderstanding. The ordinary things people rarely notice until it's too late. She found him alone after the celebrations ended. Away from cameras. Away from investors. Away from everyone. For once, he looked exhausted. The kind of exhaustion money cannot solve. The kind created by carrying too much for too long. The city glittered around them, and the world celebrated below. And somewhere between all the noise and all the silence, understanding finally arrived. The kind that accepts flaws and survives disappointment. The kind that chooses anyway. The real twist wasn't that a billionaire had secretly searched for the woman who saved him. The real twist was simpler and more relatable. He wasn't trying to repay a debt. He had fallen in love long before he discovered how much she once meant to him. And she hadn't fallen for his wealth. She had fallen for the man eating vending machine chips in airports while carrying the weight of entire industries on his shoulders. The masks had fooled everyone, including themselves. Months later, headlines speculated endlessly. Business magazines discussed mergers. Sports networks analyzed sponsorship records. Tabloids invented scandals. People always prefer dramatic stories. The truth was quieter. Two stubborn people learning how to trust. Two imperfect lives finally moving in the same direction. No fairy tale or perfection. Just commitment. The heroic act wasn't rescuing someone from danger. It was allowing yourself to be known completely and staying. If you've made it this far into their journey, leave a comment below with the word trust. It tells me you understand the secret hidden beneath every great romance. And if Sinful Secrets has become part of your listening ritual, a like and subscription ensure the next unforgettable story finds you. Years later, whenever reporters asked Caelan about the most important investment of his life, they expected complicated answers involving technology, sports, or finance. Instead, he would smile. And somewhere nearby, Zaria would already know exactly what he was thinking. Not stadiums, companies, billions. Just a spilled cup of coffee on a marble floor. The most expensive and rewarding accident either of them had ever experienced. And beneath brighter skies than stadium lights, surrounded by ordinary moments that somehow felt extraordinary, everything changed exactly as it was always meant to.